Well, welcome along to the Euro podcasts from sportsbet.io. This is our Wednesday Champions League look, but don't forget we've looked at Tuesday, and there's so much European action we look at every single week on this YouTube channel as well. We're joined, of course, by Daniele Fisichella, who's doing a great job for us with this week's action. We're going to start with an intriguing-looking game, actually, one that might not catch a few eyes, but Dinamo Zagreb hosting Borussia Dortmund. Now, Dortmund's home form is imperious, and for those of you who look at the Bundesliga, you might say, well, yeah, but they're not doing brilliantly. And they're not doing brilliantly, Daniele, because their away form is absolutely appalling. This is a really interesting game. I mean, they obviously battered a very good Freiburg side at the weekend, but again, that was at home. Dortmund are a bizarre team.
Absolutely. I mean, you mentioned it probably. They won 11 in a row at the Signal Iduna Arena Park. The record is 14, by the way, but they might reach it soon. And then they lost every single away game. But Borussia Dortmund, it's strange. Of the 4 semi-finalists of last season, they are the only one currently in the top 8 of the Champions League. So you would say they're doing much better than Real Madrid, PSG, and Manchester City. They're the only one in the top 8. But they had probably an easy calendar, I would say. Obviously, Celtic at home, Sturm Graz at home. They're not difficult games to win. Sahin has been under pressure. 36 years old, Nuri Sahin. I think he got some of the tactics wrong. That change of tactic, especially at the Bernabeu, where they were 2-0 up, they should have continued going for it rather than reverting almost to a back five. It looked like they didn't know what to do. But he's been also unlucky. He's been hit by the injuries. Adeyemi, Sule, Ryerson, Sabitzer, they've all missed some of games and probably are not going to be here. But with Borussia Dortmund, you can argue they have developed a knack and a pedigree for winning Champions League games. You know, since last season, only Real Madrid have won more games in the Champions League than Borussia, 11 against 10. And by the way, Borussia have lost 2 against Real Madrid, the final and the game we have mentioned. So you could say they are the second best team in Europe. And they face a Dinamo Zagreb that certainly have got goal scorers in them. They are second in the Croatian league, trailing, by the way, my national Rino Gattuso Hajduk split by 6 points. And by the way, on Sunday they play each other, so big game in Croatia. Dinamo Zagreb, but I don't think they're gonna make rotations for this one because for Dinamo Zagreb, this new league phase, Champions League, has been almost a holy grail. They can qualify probably for the first times. They scored already 10 times. They've been very, very clinical. They got a 33% shot conversion. Dinamo Zagreb, second only to Barcelona. So they know how to take the chances. Again, you would expect a lot of goals here if you look at the goals they score. But I think maybe they might be deceptive. Celtic, the defeat of 7-1 of Celtic for Borussia Dortmund is a clear overperformance. The XG said they should have scored many goals less. Dinamo Zagreb, they are overperforming the XG in the Champions League by 5. So they scored twice as many goals as they should have scored.
Yeah.
So I think here there could be, a regress to mean with a Borussia Dortmund win, maybe a low-scoring game here as well. The better side wins, maybe a 2-1. I mean, as I said, Dinamo Zagreb have got that goal-scoring knack about them. Yes, and Borussia Dortmund on the way in have been very, very poor.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, trying to trust Borussia Dortmund on the road is perhaps a little bit tricky, but it does look like a game they could finally get over the line in. Really interesting game at Villa Park as Aston Villa take on Juventus. Now, Villa obviously have had one of the great nights of many a year at Villa Park this season in defeating Bayern Munich. But they're on an awful run of form. They're really struggling, Aston Villa. Unai Emery, who's one of my favourite, if not my favourite manager in the world and has been for a number of years, obviously doing overall a great job. Juventus haven't always looked right in Europe so far this season. Looking at this, I thought a draw was quite an interesting way to play.
It is, and I think there are 2 arguments for this one. The draw, this is probably one of the most likely games to end on a draw alongside Bologna playing Lille and maybe Arsenal trip to Sporting. However, I'm not sure there is so much value actually in the draw for both teams.
Right.
Let me look back at last season and the previous season in match day 5 of the Champions League. Normally, match day 5 was the holy grail for draws. Last season on match day 5 in the Champions League, there have been 6 draws. The season before 4. And why is that? Because teams were already making the calculations. The draw was enough.
You knew where you stood.
Match day 5 you know what you needed, and you had to risk it, rest a few players. Match day 5 in this new Champions League, you're bang on in the middle, and you don't need the draw. Exactly what you don't need is the draw. And probably, although these two teams have drawn 7 games Juventus in the Serie A and 4 games Villa in the Premier League, maybe this is probably one less likely to end on a draw, because Aston Villa, again, they are very susceptible to counters. They're very gettable. They play such a high line. At the weekend, Tielemans and Barkley left so many gaps in behind them. I'm sure Onana is going to play instead of Barkley here. But again, they are very, very susceptible. Maybe they lack a little bit of clinical edge, a clinical touch. Again, their XG in the Premier League suggests they should have scored more, should have had more points. Are Juventus going to be able to exploit that, sometimes playing the fast pass, the cutting line passes? It depends, because Juventus are the masters of possession in Italy. First for attempted passes, first for passes completed, only 7th for touches in the box. Against Milan, the 0-0 draw, you would have been excused for falling asleep. Only 6 touches in the box in the entire game between the two sides, and the happiest team of the two was Juventus, because Juventus didn't want to lose that game. So again, Juventus are a team in transition under Motta. Is a team that likes to defend with the ball a lot, as much as Bologna were doing last season, but they don't take many risks. You won't see them really breaking the line with a pass. But can they go for it in Europe, having, with a team that will press them a little bit higher? Will they actually manage to exploit it? I don't know. Maybe it could be a shock result and a win for Juve. Because on the other hand, we have seen Aston Villa in Europe being a little bit more remissive, a bit more defensive. That win against Bayern Munich, they only had 30% of possession after all. So I don't know. Maybe this one Juve could edge it.
But at the same time, I suppose Unai Emery pulling miracles out the bag is kind of what he's done in Europe his entire career. He's a man whose career in Europe is just, almost unmatched outside of 1 or 2 guys, perhaps. It's absolutely extraordinary. We'll move on to Celtic Park as they host their club Brugge. Brugge off the back of a 7-0 destruction of Santridense at the weekend, and 4 goals from Solis as well, who might be a very good goal scorer selection here if you want to back him. He had an unbelievable game of the weekend. Celtic, obviously at home, have picked up some amazing results so far this season. There's been some strange games here. I picked this game to look at, firstly, obviously, with a bit of British interest, but secondly, because Celtic's price is slightly better than I thought it would be at home against Club Brugge.
Because they won the last 2 games at home in the Champions League, as you remind, as many as they won in the previous 4 campaigns together. So again, you could tell they have different league. They have benefited from this new format. They are unbeaten in 10 games in all competition this season. Celtic, I think they can afford rotations domestically. Although Aberdeen is challenging for the title, but they lost at the weekend. They haven't got that challenge of Rangers anymore. A good recruitment in the summer. Kuhn has been a very good recruitment. He scored against Leipzig, was good. And then you got the other players previously recruited under Postecoglou, still performing really, really well. But you mentioned Bruges, again, a team that probably has gone under the radar quite a lot. Last season, semi-finalist of the Conference League against Fiorentina. Doing well. And Nicky Hayden came mid-season to replace Rory Delia, who, by the way, used to manage Celtic. And is doing well, steadying the ships. Won at the weekend 7-0. And a bit of a quirk, 4 goals from Christopher Solis. At the weekend, by the way, Celtic, 2 goals were scored by Madamida. So now Norwich City fans are going to pull their hair, because those two play together in the 2021-2022 seasons, and they score in one weekend more goals than one they did in that season in 31 appearances. Swings and
now that's a stat. Now that is a stat.
That's a stat. That is a stat. But Bruges have only lost 1 game since September, and even in that defeat 3-1 at San Siro against Milan, when they play against 10 men, did well. This is a tough nut to crack, I think, for Celtic. good experience for Bruce in Europe. Do not underestimate him. Celtic may be content with a draw there again. The home fixtures are winnable for them. But yeah, I would expect both of them to finish in the top 25 for sure. These two teams.
It's the amazing thing about this league, isn't it? You can go into it from the start going, if we just finish in the top 25, we'll be absolutely fine. This is all we need. It's great. We'll finish with what looks like probably the game of the Champions League over Tuesday and Wednesday, which is at Anfield between Liverpool and Real Madrid. Real Madrid, I still don't think are settled. Obviously beat Leganes very comfortably 3-0 at the weekend. Liverpool managing to get by Southampton in what was yet another good weekend for Arne Slot in terms of results elsewhere as well. This looks like an absolute cracker. I thought goals in this one, Daniele, and a game that I think Arne Slot can feel relatively comfortable of getting a win in.
I think he could, considering things are going their way quite a lot. At the weekend, Liverpool were lucky to get the win, I guess.
Yeah,
probably a draw would have been a fair result, but you couldn't find a better way to prepare for this game and the game at the weekend against Manchester City than sitting comfortably top of the league. Arne Slot has been the fastest to win 10 out of 12 games in the Premier League of Liverpool managers, reaching the same record as Gus Hiddink and Ancelotti in the Premier League. But it's a different approach for this Liverpool. They're more calm, they're more composed. They almost wait for you to make mistake and play it into their hands. Southampton did it very well and very smartly at the weekend. But it is the way they do. They don't necessarily press you too high. They just wait for the moment, and they got extraordinary players to take advantage.
That's what I like about them, Daniele. Under Klopp, it felt like a constant barrage. It was machine gun fire. But what I like about Arne Slot's Liverpool so far is it's calm until it's not. In terms of you are patient and you're a bit calmer, like you say, but they're able to turn the machine gun on. Under Klopp, they were firing it all the time. And under Slot, they wait and then start the barrage. And I think that's what's been so extraordinary about them so far.
And his Klopp style was more demanding for a team that is somehow aging in some of the key players. So I think this approach can bear more fruits down the line. 11 times these two teams meet since 2009, and by the way, the odds for a Real Madrid victory had never been higher than now, just in the final, in the 22 final. So you could expect it. So things have shifted. Liverpool are clearly the favorites. Real Madrid, again, same narrative as for City. Very, very gettable. They faced 26 shots on target so far in the Champions League. Only 8 teams have a worse defensive record in the case. They only kept 4 clean sheets last season, by the way. They've conceded 15 goals. So maybe the cracks were starting to emerge also in the last campaign. But this season, without Toni Kroos, with Modric playing a little bit less, with a difficult system to fit Mbappe in, again, the frailties have been exposed and maximized. Look, I think I think Liverpool are a better side. They play 9 home matches across all competition this season. They won the XG battle in every single one of them, even when they lost against Forest. So yes, it should spell goals here. They do concede a few goals to Liverpool. I think they are overperforming their expected goal against a bit. And Leipzig maybe deserved to score 1 in the previous match day 3. So yeah, probably a game with goals, but probably a red wins.
And the best looking game of the week, undoubtedly, as well. Daniele, thank you so much, as always, for your fantastic expertise. We'll speak to Daniele again, I'm sure, in the future. And again, don't forget to look out for all of the videos on this channel as well. Not just the Champions League, but La Liga, Serie A, Bundesliga, all the NFL, and everything else available to you here at sportsbet.io. We'll catch you next time, but make sure you gamble responsibly.